No doubt about it, this is by far the best movie I've seen this year. But it's also the worst. Hi guys, today we have my first movie review of 2021. Let's hope it's not a year full of delays just like last year, and we actually get to see these movies which we were meant to. Although saying that, we are off to a bad start with Morbius being delayed a couple of months. Still in the year, but we're gonna have to wait longer to see that. And to start off this year of movie reviews, we have a DC animated movie which is titled Batman: Soul of the Dragon. In the 1970s, a missing teacher of martial arts is the subject of a quest by his devoted and brilliant but distant students, who include Batman. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is a DC animated movie, as you can tell, has Batman in the title. But the question is, has DC started off the year strong, or is it a more forgettable animated movie? Let's go find out. So moving into my positives about this movie, it actually contains a lot of action. There isn't normally too much action in some of these DC animated movies, but this one, the action is front and center. It pays its respects to 70s martial arts movies, mainly Bruce Lee, with some of the things that happen during it. Whether that's the action itself, the character costumes, just some really campy and cheesy dialogue, or even the funky music which happens in those fight scenes. It will feel very nostalgic for some people from movies around that time, as it is based in the 70s and heavily involves martial arts. As it does lean into those elements from the 70s with that campy dialogue, the costumes. The movie itself feels a bit silly, but it's aware of that, so you can have a good time, as it doesn't really take itself too seriously. But now we move on to the negatives, the cons about this movie. Unless you watch every DC animated movie, you probably watched this because it had Batman in the title and you thought, oh, this sounds like an interesting story with Batman. Well, all I can say is, without knowing the title of this movie, I wouldn't have actually thought it was a Batman movie. Batman himself feels very out of place. He's actually only in the movie, well, Bruce is in the movie a lot, but Batman in his suit is only in this movie for about 2 scenes. And even in those scenes, he just feels really out of place and unnecessary to the story. So in those 2 scenes, the majority of the people involved in it already know that he's Bruce Wayne, and everyone else isn't dressed up in a suit or anything. They're just in the clothes or the outfit they've worn the whole entire movie. It's like he went to a party thinking it was a dress-up party, but no one else dressed up. Like a 70s martial art DC animated movie would have been cool, but the fact Batman is in this, it actually feels really forced and it brings it down in quality. And to be honest, I kind of had that concern going into this that actually might be the case. You know, they've done it before in these DC animated movies with misleading titles. They said Teen Titans versus the Justice League, and it was like a scene where the Justice League were brainwashed. Don't get me wrong, I get why they added Batman to the title, because obviously he's very popular, he's a lot popular than the other characters in this movie, and that'll get more viewers. But in truth, it's a movie whose main character is Richard Dragon, featuring a little bit of Batman for some reason. That's what I can say. The characters themselves, they could have done with some more development. I know that these DC animated movies are only about an hour and 20 minutes long. That is not a long runtime at all. So it's understandable that they had those restrictions, but the only development for how the characters know each other was some really messy flashbacks. They could have done with more character chemistry in the present day, as opposed to just showing them in flashbacks. And one final problem, it's not really as big as the other ones. It didn't bother me, I only really thought of it afterwards when I looked back at it. But this movie has an R rating, or 15, depending what country you're in. Like, yeah, there are some limbs cut off, but nothing else really indicates why it has to have that rating. The language is fairly mild, you know, it's what you'd expect from like a PG-13 movie. And since they had this rating, they could have gone more gory with some of the action, which may have increased the quality and enjoyment. It just felt like another restricted movie with the action, with the swearing, but then you look at it and you see its rating and you don't get why they restricted themselves, because they had the tools to do that, but they restricted it themselves. So for my final verdict, Batman Soul of the Dragon is another shameless DC animated movie which has its fun on a few occasions with some of the campiness, the action, and just its homage to 70s martial arts movies. However, it's one of those movies which really won't change your life. It won't change your perspective on DC animated movies, and to be honest, it wouldn't even change how you're feeling in the moment that you're watching it. Didn't evoke too much emotion from me, and the big thing to take out of this is how out of place Batman feels in his own movie. So to cap that off, I do not recommend this movie. Obviously, if you're someone who watches all the DC animated movies, you're going to watch it anyway. I wouldn't say it's one of the worst, but it's certainly nowhere near the best. A really bog standard, ineffective animated movie from DC once again. And in terms of rating, I'm going to give it a 59%. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot. I'm really going to try push to get more good content out this year, and just your support keeps me motivated. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this movie and what you think of it. I would be curious to hear, as there isn't too many reviews up online at the moment, so I don't actually know what the IMDb rating or Rotten Tomatoes score is, so I'd be interested to see what you thought of it. But anyways, really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I really hope to see you in my next review, which should be out very soon.